welcome to Tennis 2020. Today we had a few technical difficulties trying to talk to Mr. Mike Barrell, but we're here now, and if you're watching this and you're in tennis, you undoubtedly know Mike, or you know of Mike. He is one of the world's leading experts on getting kids started, getting people started in tennis in small spaces, and a lot of the unique things that you've undoubtedly been touched by if you've seen any of the curriculum coming from in the United States anyways. It has been touched by Mike's hands, and we are glad to have him today. He has his finger on the pulse of what's going on here and also other places around the world. Welcome, Mike. How are you doing?
Yeah, fine, thanks. Yeah, we're holed up in Florida right now, waiting to see if we make it back to the UK or not. Um, but we're good. There are worse places to be holed up than Florida in the sunshine.
There are. Where in Florida are you at the national
We're in
campus?
Orlando.
Gotcha.
Yeah, we're close to National Campus. Yeah.
Okay. And can you tell us what's going on with all of this, and what's your sense of talking to people in various places of where tennis is right at the moment?
Well, I think like everybody right now, everyone's kind of in a state of shock a little bit, and so there's a lot of reaction, and there's a lot of things that people are trying to respond to, and trying to find any way they can to keep contact with their members and their players and keep things afloat. But I think down the line we're going to have to start, within a couple of weeks, we're going to have to start thinking about how we make our businesses a little bit more robust, how we find other ways to communicate with our players, and perhaps how we can make tennis a bigger part of their lives, and we take tennis beyond the court into the spaces what we've been forced to take it right now. So not by any means saying this is a good thing, but at the same time it's made us think a little bit.
So a lot of things that people are doing now with their kids. I think everybody, if you've been in lockdown for a little while, you're probably going stir crazy. If you're just going into it, we're here in Austin. I think they're going to issue the order today to kind of shelter in place. So we'll be in that place where nobody's going outside. A lot of people are finding ways or looking to find ways to keep their kids active, to break some of the monotony of just reading a book or playing a board game. Are there things that you could suggest for what they could do in very small spaces that might include some activities that would move their tennis forward, whether it's with a racket and a ball or just kind of some fun things or some resources?
I think if you go into any social media right now, you'll see hundreds of ideas of things you can do. You'll see so many Facebook posts from, on Instagram and all these kind of things from loads of coaches. For me, it's a little bit more, how does that go beyond the sugar rush of what that 5 minutes of activity might be? How do we get the kid to be motivated to continually do these things after a few days? So, it's a question of creating some little challenges, creating some reward systems, creating a little idea of, if we continually practice something and continually try and improve it day after day after day, if kids can challenge their parents to do things, or you can find ways to make it into little games and competitions, because of course everyone's got ideas as to the skills that they might want to do. But at the same time, for me, I'm thinking, if I had a kid hold up with me right now, just by playing with that 5 minutes of activity, that's not going to keep him engaged in something longer term. So I think if you can come up with a reward system that keeps people motivated, that keeps kids coming back to something, improving their personal best at things, trying as many different ways as you can do it, finding ways to challenge your friends through the internet, sending them a clip of you doing it and them sending it back, those sort of things. I think those kind of exchange and that kind of collaboration is where all these little activities have to go. Beyond that, in terms of skills, I think it's trying to find skills that are valuable as opposed to, just activities. So yeah,
Hmm.
I would hope now in the next phase, coaches would come up with ideas of the things that they would have otherwise been working on with their kids. Like, okay, yeah, so
Hmm.
we like we were due to be working on some directing ground strokes, or we were due to be working on doing adding spin to the serve, and then saying, okay, here's 5 things to do that might help you with your spin because we were going to do the serve. I think what's happening right now is everyone's just throwing out everything, and there's no structure and order to it, and that will last be okay for a while, but quickly people are going to go, yeah, we've done that. What do we do next? We don't really need 100 ways to rally against the garage wall. We need, okay, what would you be teaching your kids right now if you were on the court? Okay, now almost give them 5 or 6 things to do for that, and then come back to that next week and say, right, how did you go with those things? And then here's the next set of things we were doing because we would have been working on, I don't know, approaching the nail, working on a volley or something.
So you're saying coaches remaining involved with the players during this time, giving some direction, curating the activities that people are finding, um, having a plan. And I think probably one of the hard parts is we have no idea how long this is going to last. They're starting to talk about ways of getting things going again, and once we have tests for antibodies, maybe so those people can go back out, or how that's all going to work. So we don't really know if it's going to be 2 weeks or if it's going to be several months, right? So it's hard to figure out what is that long term. Do we dig into something that might take a little bit longer and create those challenges and personal bests and all of that, or is it just we have to entertain the kids for a couple of weeks?
Yeah, I think we can find lots of ways to entertain kids. I think it's more a question of, does this give us an opportunity to add something to our businesses? Why are we talking? Okay, so we're talking about being, on lockdown for a period of time, but why does this have to stop when we come out of lockdown? If we've worked on a lot of things that add value to somebody's tennis when they do it at home, let's use this as an opportunity to create a little bit more of a robust system, if you like, so that even when we go back and we can finally get back on the court, could this thing continue? Could this thing be an additional extra and added value that we add to all of our lessons, as opposed to, okay, well, now we're going to stop doing that because we're back on the court?
Right. So using it as an opportunity to look into that circular file, things I've wanted to do, haven't had time to do, so now I can dig in and maybe, alpha test, beta test, refine a little bit, and, continue to use it moving forward. And I seem to be hearing the
Yeah.
same things from all the smart people that I'm hearing, that you're saying a lot of the same things I was hearing from Alex Johansson yesterday. It's a challenge, but it's an opportunity at the same time, right? Um,
Well, the thing I think in our industry, the thing we all say we don't have is time. Guess what? We have a lot of it. So, we can either sit there and make our businesses more robust and build things. And I'm not saying, we're not all going to suffer from this because everyone's suffering, from this situation. But at the same time, it's thinking about, okay, how can I do things that add value? Maybe how can I finally go and do that thing that is going to help me on video analysis of players. How, we for a long time, tennis has dabbled with technology, but in dabbling with technology, we don't ever really spend the time to become experts at it. A lot of people spend a little bit of time doing video analysis, but they don't really think about how video analysis could be part of their business. Or a lot of people think about, well, we want kids to do things at home, but they don't think about how they really connect it to their proper curriculum. And I think the other one that's really big is behaviors. It's like, well, in evolution, our program, we drive it through 4 behaviors. We drive it through respect, hard work, being inquisitive, and dealing with adversity. And we try and reward the kids for those 4 things. And in that way, we're creating an even playing field because every kid can control behaviors. But also, those are the things we should be looking at in these kind of situations. Okay, how can you reward a kid who's coming up with new ways of doing things? That's being inquisitive. How can you reward a kid for doing the most difficult task even if they can't achieve it. Like a skateboard trick. It's like, it's almost like we need to put tennis in that position as well. Here's something really difficult that no one's going to be able to do. Go try it. And how do we create reward people for coming back to something day after day after day and improving at it, or being respectful. So I think really we have to look at we have to spend this a little bit of time reflecting on what is it that we can improve about the way we go about evolving our young players, and then also send those messages to parents. Have those discussions with parents. We're sending out a lot of messages for kids to do with tennis, but parents are going to be frustrated with this whole situation as well, because now all of a sudden they may find themselves 24/7 with their kids, and that could be a new experience as well. What should we be telling them to do to help focus on?
So, to a large degree, talking to me, you're preaching to the choir, because I've long believed that tennis is a microcosm of life, and so we want all of these other things. So when you talk about those other values that you try to bring to the program, I think great programs always do that. You touched on some ways on the first three that this would be an opportunity, and I would really say the fourth one, adversity, we're all dealing with, both the kids and the parents, right? So this is definitely a place to say, we've been dealing with how do you handle adversity. Now here is real life adversity, and how are you going to approach it? Are you going to be in one of those, oh, woe is me moments, or are you going to say, here's an opportunity to do something else, whatever that something else is, and to continue to move myself forward, and become a little better, just, each day.
Yeah, and I don't want to patronize coaches. At the end of the day, we're all sat there with wondering where our next paycheck's going to come from right now. But at the same time, it's like, what you're really good at, can you create another level of that? Can you think, can you add value to it? I'm not saying let's all necessarily go off and, do an online course or something like that. Like, I know a lot of people have said there's an opportunity for doing that, but I think people feel like this is not a vacation. This is like working out how we move things forwards. And I would just hope that people at the end of this process are able to add more value to what they're doing, because they've had the time to think about it, but also the necessity to think about it, really.
Have there been any kind of roundtable think groups? I know everybody's kind of moving towards online video conferencing. We've started using Zoom a lot more than what we were doing before, because we saw each other all the time, right? And as people become more familiar with those technologies, have you seen any opportunities for people to connect with people outside of their geographical area, right? Because a lot of us, not me, because I don't run a program anymore, but we think of the guy down the street as being the competition. But now there's an opportunity to connect with the guy, half a state away or something. So we're still know each other, we see each other at conferences, but we're not competing for the same players, if that's an issue. And hopefully it's not an issue with people, but the reality is it is with a lot of coaches. Have you seen any of that start going on, some collaborative things, people sharing ideas, working together to develop things?
Yeah, I mean, for our group, because our program's Evolution, and we have this group, we have 58 clubs all over the world. So we're running an online summit for our people tomorrow, going through some of the issues that everyone's experiencing and exchanging information. We're doing one of those every week to try and make sure that everyone gets a voice and everyone can have their concerns addressed. I'm also going to be part of a group through Orange Coach, which is going to be a bit of a global think tank for a few things that we're going to announce at the end of the week. So that's something moving forward. I think a lot of these things are going to come together, and I think you're right. I think it's groups of people actually discussing these issues and voicing and exchanging information that's going to probably happen a lot more. I would hope naturally that's going to happen through just a situation we're all in. Right. When was the last time we spoke? We haven't spoken for a few years. So it's like just naturally we're already doing it, and then let's hope that those kind of things can continue, because tennis is one of those sports where we've been through some interesting cycles recently. Um, people are looking for the net. I always have this discussion quite interestingly about the pickleball situation, because a lot of people are jumping on that boat, and I'm like, well, but I understand that it might be a nice addition, but it's never going to take away from me the fact that I'm a tennis person and I work in the tennis industry, and that's what we should all be about, and we've got to keep finding more solutions for it. So maybe this will be a prompt for us to help find some of those solutions which tennis has got sucked into. Tennis is fallen into the sport of it all being about finding, as I said to someone this morning, it's all about finding the magic tree in the forest and not paying attention to all the other trees that actually made that magic tree grow a bit taller than everybody else. We're always looking for the superstar, and maybe this makes us be a little bit less focused on finding that one kid, and maybe starts to think, yeah, actually I need to do a better job of looking after everybody. And in many ways that puts egos a little bit more aside, and then perhaps we can collaborate a bit more.
I certainly hope so. It's a lot of fun, and particularly if you're the head of anything, it can tend to be pretty lonely. I've been an entrepreneur for 30 years or something, and it's hard to have peers and to share within your organization when you are at the top. And finding ways to connect with other people, to share the pain, to share the great things. I think that's something that's been missing in the tennis industry for a long time. Maybe as long as I've been in it, which unfortunately, my age says it's probably been a long time. And
yeah, I think it comes down to the nature of tennis. People don't get the respect that maybe they deserve. We don't get the respect a golf pro gets, and so by our very nature, we're kind of scrambling to the top, and it's a bit of a slippery slope, and we're trying to get what we feel we really need, and then off the back of that, it becomes like we're less likely to share ideas and less likely to collaborate in ways that we really should. But everything I've been involved in that's been good in the last few years has all been collaborative.
So
everything. I mean, everything. My whole programs now are all based on getting people together and just listening, rather than telling everybody what to do.
Isn't that
those days are gone?
The ask, don't tell. So along those lines, is there one tip you can share with us that we might not have heard someplace else, or one thing that you can share that you find when you say it to people, they're like, wow, I never thought of
that? My brain's a bit random, so it jumps around a lot. The one I've thought about, well, the one we do a lot of, which I think is a bit more important for us in this situation right now, is tennis. We tend to fragment our programs. We tend to put, competition over there and lessons over there, and we tend to have everything broken down into bits. I think the most important thing is to connect everything together. It's connecting competition to lessons, connecting everything to practice, looking after the social elements of things. Very much. Well, I think, if, for example, you run a competition, most people look at the competition in a bubble. They don't go, right, well, how did I spend the time in the lessons getting the kid ready for the competition? How did practice equip those kids, like practice being your match play, equip those kids for the stuff that they're going to experience in that? What did I do socially that in that competition? What did I do for parents once I'm in that competition? And there's a thing that floats around the internet quite a lot and social media, which is you either win or you learn. And I've always scratched my head a little bit with that one and gone, did I not learn anything when I won? How are we connecting learning to everything we do? How are we connecting everything we do to being the next step along the pathway, as opposed to everything being, an end goal, an end milestone? So I think, look for learning in everything, if we just keep looking for learning, if you're really thirsty for that kind of learning process, then you keep growing all the time and you find ways. If you're inquisitive and you're always trying to learn, you find ways. If you get very fixed in that way of this is how it should be, this is what it is, you won't cope very well with this situation.
That's a nugget. Thank you for that. If watching things like this, if we can just come away each day with one nugget. We're going to go off, Mike. If you can just hold for just a couple of seconds while we sign off, and then you and I can just chat for a second.
Yeah, of course.
We'll let you go if you have just a couple more minutes.
Yeah, absolutely. No problem.
Great wisdom coming from Mike Barrell of Evolve 9. You know, we're all in this together. We're all in a place where we are searching for answers. And the fact that people like Mike and others are willing to share their time and share their wisdom, and I've called on people that I know will do that no matter what. It's not just in this time. But if we can learn from them and come away better, that would be awesome. We're closing down at Austin Tennis Academy. It looks like pretty soon. Austin is about to order a shelter in place, and so won't be, out here on the court. We're going to be right here or in a studio talking to you about things that we can all do because we're all in the same boat at this moment in time. I want to thank Mike Barrell. I want to thank Austin Tennis Academy for making this possible and EKH Media for helping produce it. So stay well, stay safe, and continue to be amazing. See ya.